I have a cousin who's a teacher, and she used to say to her students, "Y'all don't read, and it shows."
Hey, hey, tell me more.
Welcome back to Tell Me More with me, CJ Quartlbaum. Tell Me More exists to help bridge the gap in our intergenerational workplace dynamics, build better leaders, and ultimately prepare for the future. A part of preparing for the future is the acquisition of knowledge. Now, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge, it's what we know, it's what we learn, but wisdom is the skillful application of that knowledge. Over the last 15 years, I've read about 500 books. A lot of this was a journey of self-discovery. I never loved school, but I always loved learning. And my love for learning really happened when I finished school. I remember thinking to myself, I just want to read what I want to read. And it set me down this incredible journey of gaining language, gaining insight, of learning things that honestly, they don't really teach us in school. I say to people all of the time, most of your learning, the overwhelming majority of your learning starts the day you finish school. The unfortunate truth is, most people stop reading the day their formal education finishes. But what we know about life, whether it be finances, health, fitness, emotional intelligence, conversation, just relating to people, we're not taught in school. Listen, I have not used a parabola since, when did we learn that, in the 8th grade? I haven't sine, cosine, tangent, none of that stuff. But there were a lot of skills that I needed to learn along the way that unfortunately, my teachers, my professors, administrators did not give me. Now, I'm not telling you to go read 500 books because who's got that kind of time? So I'm gonna give you right now 5 books, particularly if you are in Gen Z. These 5 books are gonna lay the foundation for skills that you need for life. But it's not just Gen Z. So if you're not Gen Z, don't tap out because millennials, we need this. Xers, you need this. Boomers, don't give up, okay? It's not too late. As long as there's breath in your lungs, you should keep learning. And with that, we'll go with the first book, which was near the bottom of the pile, but I'm gonna move it up here. Mindset by Dweck. This book is about the way you think. It is about the way you see yourself and your ability to learn and to be and to do. Dweck outlines 2 mindsets, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. The fixed mindset says things are the way they are, it is what it is. The growth mindset says I can change, I can improve, I can keep growing, I can be better than I was yesterday. The growth mindset applies to every area of our lives. And so the first thing you need to know is that who you are today is not who you will be forever, and it's not who you have to be forever. What I come across a lot are people who lead from the place of can't. So you say, hey, I think you should do this. I see this skill in you. I see this gift. And what do they say? No, I can't do that. No, not me. That's for someone else. Why not you? Why not? A growth mindset says you can do it. You can learn it. When I started this YouTube channel, I didn't know anything about cameras, about editing videos. I'm still learning how to do some things, as you can tell, but I went after it anyway. I think about the very first video I made on this channel and how it took me way too long to figure out how to put my name, how to center it, like all of those things. But a growth mindset says that you can keep going. And if you want to achieve success in this life, and that's the subtitle of this book, Mindset, the New Psychology of Success, it starts with believing that you can. So that's book number 1. Book number 2, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Now this is an important book because despite the clickbaity nature of the title, it's not a get rich quick scheme kind of book. What Ramit does in this book is he teaches us the basics of finance, things that we don't learn in school, things that if you come from one of those homes where your parents didn't talk about money, that you just didn't learn. And sometimes there is an assumption on how money works, but you never actually got the education. Or maybe you grew up poor and there's a scarcity mindset around money. Maybe you grew up rich and there's an abundance mindset. And what we're seeing now with the rising cost of everything and the way student loans are shaping out and the average American carrying so much credit card debt is that you have an entire generation of people who grew up upper middle class, maybe lower upper class, whatever, who are not reaching the same status level as their parents. And millennials were the first generation predicted to not reach the same wealth level as their parents, who grew up accustomed to a certain way of life that they now can't match, but also don't know how to not live, and they're struggling. That's part of the reason that the credit card debt is so high. Overextending ourselves, buying things we don't need to impress people we don't like, not having a good idea of what enough is, so we keep chasing and pursuing more. Dallas, Texas has the highest debt to income ratio in the country because it's a showy culture. I need to show you that my house is bigger, my house is better, my car is faster. I just need to keep building. Ramit teaches us how money works. And most of us are not going to go and get MBAs or degrees in finance or anything like that, but we still need to know the basics. You don't need to be the next Warren Buffett, but you do need to understand how your money's going. Third book for you. Now, I lost the cover for this book years ago, but it's called Deep Nutrition by Dr. Kate Shanahan. I'm gonna tell you why this book is so important. We are the unhealthiest we have ever been. That's not an argument, it's not a debate, it is true. I think it's 89% of Americans experience some form of metabolic instability, are metabolically unhealthy, whether it's diabetes or heart disease, high blood pressure, those sorts of things. A lot of what comes up under the leading causes of death are lifestyle choices. It's the foods that we choose to eat. It's the way that we feed ourselves. Something like 66% I think it's something like 75% of the average teenager's diet comes from highly processed foods. At the end of the day, we were designed to eat food and not food-like products. I hate American cheese. I hate American cheese because it tastes nasty, but also it's not actually cheese by definition. That's a whole other rabbit hole that we can go down. But what's important for us to understand is we need to know how to properly fuel ourselves. You do not have to accept that as you get older, you just break down and get sicker. Yes, your body ages, but the rate at which we are aging and the rate at which we are breaking down does not match where we are. So what makes this book great? In this book, it is one of those books that I can truly say transformed my life. I read it right around the time that my wife was pregnant with my first kid. And in this book, so the first 100 pages of the book, right? She's talking about why you shouldn't eat so much sugar and what it's doing to our bodies. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I've got an insatiable sweet tooth, which I still do, and I'm working on it 10 years later. But then the next 100, 150 pages or so are about vegetable oil and the process by which it's made and the omega-6 fatty acids that are in it, which are, it's not that omega-6 fatty acids are bad, it's that an overabundance of them in our body is bad. And all the vegetable oils have an abundance of omega-6 fatty acids. So then, even still, you kind of read that and you're like, yeah, but not that bad. But then she started talking about epigenetics and how this stuff transforms our bodies and therefore transforms our children's genetics. That was enough for me. I love my kids. I will do whatever I need to do to be the healthiest version of me so that they can have a chance at life. So now, you read those two things and it really starts to kind of transform my mind, and you start reading labels and you realize that these oils show up in everything. And she gives you a good rule of thumb. So you want to avoid vegetable oil, just straight up. But then, it shows up in other names, and she gives you the 3 C's and the 3 S's. Corn, canola, cottonseed, sunflower, safflower, soybean oil. If you avoid those 6, the 3 C's, the 3 S's, and then vegetable oil, general, so 7, you will find that you cannot buy 80% of what's in the grocery store. And I started this journey 10 years ago, so now there's a whole lot more options out there, but 10 years ago, I love chips. but there were no chips that I could buy. Now we've got Siete and Boulder, and I just got these beef tallow chips from Costco that are fire. So highly recommend it. But then she goes into this idea of, well, what is the perfect human diet? And what she did was not try to say you should eat this, this, and this. Instead, she looked at the blue zones, the places around the world where people live the longest, and said, well, what do these diets have in common? And she found 4 things. They ate raw fruits and vegetables, fermented vegetables, meat on the bone, and organ meats. I'm not going to go into detail on all of them, but I'm going to touch on that last one because I think in particular in Western society, we don't eat organ meats. We view them as nasty or we don't like the way they taste, but just 100 grams of beef liver a week will give you all of the nutrients you need for that week. 100 grams isn't a lot. I eat chicken hearts on a regular basis because there's a Brazilian spot in Astoria, Queens. Shout out to Copacabana that makes them phenomenally. But organ meats are the most nutrient-dense foods that we can consume. If you don't want to eat them, there are a bunch of companies now that will do desiccated organs in pill form. Check it out. 4th book. This video is going longer than I thought it would. The Next Conversation by Jefferson Fisher. I'm going to tell you why this book is so important. We argue a lot. We don't express ourselves well. In the heat of conflict, our emotions flare up. And what Jefferson Fisher does in this book is he gives us tools and the ability to regulate ourselves, to pause, to say the next right thing, to not respond with what we feel and hear. There's this one trick he gives you in the book where someone says something offensive to you or they're trying to get a rise out of you, where you just take a moment to breathe. There is power in the pause. And so you breathe, and then you do a quick breath. I don't know if the mic caught that, but it's like, and just that little moment gives you a second to think and not just instantly react. But what I also love is that Jefferson gives us some words to say back. So, someone says the thing intentionally to hurt you or to embarrass you or shame you in front of maybe friends, family, colleagues, because we deal with this at work a lot with toxic bosses, where he says, please repeat that. So someone says the outlandish thing and you go, please repeat that. Because now you're putting the ball back in their court and you're saying, say that thing again. Say it out loud. I want you to hear it. Or when someone says something intentionally to hurt you, you can respond with, well, what was the point of that? What did you hope to get by saying that thing? Again, you're making people take ownership of their words, take ownership of what they're trying to do to you. One of my favorite lines from the book is when someone says something and you go, man, I can't believe you feel comfortable saying that out loud. There's an instant shame you put on someone in that moment. Like, you really just said that? Really? Because often when they say those things, it's to get a reaction out of us. And we take the power back by not giving them that reaction, but also putting the ball back on them. This is a great book about the art of conversation. I highly suggest you read it. Last book. This book is called Resonate, and it is about the power of storytelling. We are creatures of narrative. We make up stories in our heads. We tell ourselves stories. We are all attracted to the person that can hold court and tell good stories. But storytelling is a skill for life. Whether you are giving a presentation at work, whether you are trying to sell something, trying to explain something to people, if you're a parent, trying to explain things to your kids, trying to persuade people to come to your side of things, there is a unique power in storytelling, and most of us do not do it well. Read this book to learn how to tell better stories, because that's what we need in this world, better stories. Listen, thank you for tuning into this video. Those are 5 books that I highly recommend you read. They will help give you skills that you need for life, but also, we don't live these skills out in a vacuum. And I think what often happens for us is that we'll read all the books and we'll read them in isolation and we'll say to ourselves, I'm telling better stories. I'm better with my money. My food is better. I argue less. What was the first book? My mindset's different. But we don't actually know that until we're here, until it's in conflict, until it's in relationship. I can tell you that I'm more loving, I'm more patient, I'm more kind, I'm more gentle. I can tell you I'm all of those things. But we will only know in the heat of the moment if what I've been taking in is actually being put into practice. Some of us are playing high stakes games. You don't want to have that argument and then find out in that moment, oh, I haven't actually put Jefferson Fisher's work into practice. And this is why I'm here. Because having a coach is a safe place to work out some of these things. Having a coach gives you practice so that when you get into the game of life, you're good to go. So I'm launching a cohort in January 2026 for people in Gen Z. I want to take about 10 of you and I want to walk with you for about 3 months. And we're going to work on a lot of this skill acquisition. We're going to work on working out these things that we're learning. I'm going to answer a lot of your questions that you have about life because most of us wish that life came with a playbook, but it doesn't. So I'm putting together resources and materials to help you become the best version of you. So there's a link in the description below. You can hit me on Instagram. You can go to my website. But sign up for this next cohort because there's only 10 spots available and I want to help you be the best version of yourself. And maybe you think I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just some old guy who thinks he has the answers, which I don't. But I've walked the road that you've walked. I've been there. And I wish I had the help that was being offered right now. But hey, what do I know? I'm just some guy from Brooklyn.